Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you not an Imperial Knights video, but they're going to be our starting talking point. So, Imperial Knights has been doing fairly well. First and second at the Cherokee Open, still performed well, relatively okay at Manchester, even managed top four at Clutch City GT, and again, I'm just going to be the one to say, once again, I don't know why we keep getting confused that Imperial Knights are like, not that bad, right? They've been kind of prevalent for quite some time. I shouldn't say prevalent, but okay enough, for the most part. Now, to that end, I will say I've given the inclusion of Titanic Knights in the list maybe a little too much credit because for some other things I'm like, well, if Titanic can do it over there, you could try it too. But that doesn't, I don't think that's any more false. But I will say I haven't added the layered addendum to a lot of those arguments because the other armies that I am making that argument for already have the extra oomph. So coming over to today's actual um, army of discussion, I want to go on to the fact noting that Imperial Knights, yes, they do have access to some pretty decent things, right? They have a way to get, because it's been Noble Lance, Feel No Pain can become a 5-up Feel No Pain, which for a stat check with a lot of armatures, which is what some of those lists have been looking like, I shouldn't say some, a good portion of those lists have been looking like, adding 6 T10 armatures with a 5-up Feel No Pain and rerolls because they all go with Lay Low the Tyrant, uh, and then getting some command points. That's pretty alright. And here's the other thing, and also you have to factor in bondsmen, but for most of the list, actually, a good portion of them have been cheeky, which goes into, well, not even going to the bondsman aspect. So, the thing is, right? Noble Lance, yeah, you get some command points, and the detachment of Noble Lance, I don't rate the stratagems that high, especially when 3 of them are 2 command points, right? And this one is Devastating Wounds, but you can't use it on monsters or vehicles. You get your Rotate Ion Shields, that's cool. And Squire's Duty is alright as well. Now, Trophy Claim is pretty cool too. You can pretty much make half of it back. And, so on and so forth. Noble Lances, okay. Don't think the stratagems is where the core of the power is, because one thing that I haven't really talked much about lately is that the Knights list have been including uh, Sisters of Battle emulators and allied units have really been a good portion of, yeah, if you can ally in some good shit, I think you'll do okay. I'm not sure if this one has it. So, Blind Faith? Okay, yeah, okay. So everybody's been doing that, alright? And that's the Imperial Knights in a nutshell, because if you clicked on this thumbnail, or video for the thumbnail, and the title, you probably know that I actually want to talk about Chaos Knights, who have been having not as hot. Like it's no secret that Chaos Knights don't do as hot as Imperial Knights. Like that's not a secret, right? Now, of course, you still have your first places at events. It's not to say that this faction is completely unwinnable, but it got me thinking as somebody that doesn't play either faction, right? There's the other disclaimer, I don't play either faction. But I did want to deep dive into what the fuck is going on, right? So, we go first to the army rule. It got changed, and when I first read it, I was like, well, hold on. I am scared of Chaos Knights now. I still am. Probably shouldn't be to an extent, but here's the thing. Harbingers of Dread now, if an enemy takes a Battle Shock or Leadership test within a foot of a Chaos Knight, -1 to that test. If they're Battle Shock, +1 to wound, and -1 to hit into you, right? You have Super Heavy Walker go through terrain 4 inches or less in height if you are a Titanic Knight You roll a d6 after. If it's a 1, you're battle shocked. And after a lot of thought, I was like, how is this not better? Right? As my tyrannid hive mind brain could not comprehend how this could not be better for you all over in Chaos Knights. But I do think it comes down to the same thing that I've been complaining about the Tyrannid army rule. The lack of agency. This completely depends on your opponent and doesn't do shit for you. Okay, Super Heavy Walker does, arguably, but that's a passive more so than an army rule, right? That you can still get fucked over by. But you don't have a straight up benefit. Say you are going into me as Tyrannids, and my synapse gives me 3d6. Now, I've bitched about how you will still fail some fucking 3d6 battle shock test, I tell you what. But, this makes this significantly harder for Chaos Knights. If I'm never battle shocked, the entire game, you don't have an army roll. Now, uh, we see that armies can function without army rules. We have seen that. We we have seen that. Yeah. But that's not to say that every army should live that way. So, going back to the lack of agency, I then started thinking, if Chaos Knights were to get buffed, what direction do you go into and what do you replicate? So, for the rest of this video, I'll be talking about for a portion of it my proposed ideas as to what could possibly make Chaos Knights better from an outsider perspective. And then I'll explain the thumbnail a bit more, and I know that's going to make people upset, but I will say you... fuck it, I'll spoil this now. This is, what if we go with, or what if you all go with, the Imperial Knights approach, and go with the equivalent, and that might surprise you, but probably not. Maybe. We'll see. Going on further, what if, I went to the Tyrannus thing, and here's the Tyrannus thing, right? Where you have an army rule that you might never interact with, and some of the issues that I have with Tyrannus, to sum up really quickly. You know us for doing some battle shock shenanigans, but yet we don't gain a benefit from you being battle shocked unless we take a Neurolictor, and the benefit is you don't get to play the game. Nothing happens in my army rule that gives me +1 to hit, +1 to wound, +1 AP. None of that shit if you're battle shocked. That doesn't affect me, right? Now, over here on Chaos Knights, you don't have a way innately to do battle shock test or have something to fall back on if your opponent is never battle shocked. So, now, you will say, Monster, what the fuck do you mean? I could just go to Traitorous Lance, and then if I'm, below, or if your opponent is below starting strength, they have to take a test within a foot. But that's the detachment covering the army rules ass, right? As it stands right now, you just have to faith, trust, and pixie dust the shit if you do want to play Iconoclast Fiefdom to get your army rule going, or factor in the Cultish Firebrand for Battle Shock test, yada yada yada, right? You shouldn't have to work so hard for your army rule to work. It should work no matter the fuck you bring in. That's kind of why the army rule is there. So going to that point, I think one thing that would be a little bit neat is, well, looking through the Tyrannid roster, and what you all already have. You already have Death Leaper and Neurolictor in the army role, right? You have a Screamer Killer and the Abominant. But what if you had a Haruspex? What do I mean by that? What if you had a Haruspex and the fact that each time, let's say a Chaos Knight unit destroyed an enemy unit, enemy units within 6 inches of where that took place have to take a battle shock test. What if you go that route? That's just me spitballing out of thinking from the Tyrannage roster. I will say an idea that I had that is about to come up. Well, isn't going to come up. Well, but now I'm talking about it, so it's going to come up. Anyway, the Swarm Lord I was thinking about including where you could be really the antithesis to Imperial Knights, where they're gaining command points for doing things. What if you took away command points from your opponent? So at first that was the idea of your warlord initial like innately just gets vect, or Lord of Deceit I guess is more accurate now. But also, what if you doubled down on the battle shock no stratagem type shit? What if every time your opponent fails a battle shock test within 12 inches of a Chaos Knight, they lose a command point? Fuck it, make it so that they could go negative. Okay, probably don't do that. That'd be probably way too fucking busted. But what if, right? What if you could just take away a command point from your opponent? Now, Necrons have something like that in. Is it Obeisance? I'm forgetting right now. But it exists in the 40k 10th edition right now. You can take away. Maybe it's Annihilation Legion. I'm forgetting, but Necrons have it. I'll go back to that some other time. But what if that's the case? What if because all of your stratagems over here are like one CP, so you don't. It's not the worst thing to not have a command point generator. Like I do think it's really, really fucking shitty, but there's that. And I also didn't want to do the thing that I've recommended twice now for both Votan and Sisters in a way where Sisters. The recommendation is that if you kill a unit, you get a command point in a way. For Votan, it's if you kill a unit with a judgment token on it, was my idea, and for Sisters, it's if you get a miracle dice if you kill a unit. The same way, if you die, you get a miracle dice, and at the start of the turn. For Chaos Knights, if you kill a unit that is battle shot, maybe you get a command point. That could be neat too. Those are some ideas on that front. Then I looked over at Drukari on the instance of, well, even if your opponent doesn't become battle shocked, you still have something, a resource that is. Um, had no clue what that could be until I thought, well, what if you go the route of a Talos? What if when a Chaos Knight kills a unit that is battle shocked, it retains the effects of the army rule, right? So now it's +1 to wound into anything else that it wants to attack, and anything trying to hit it is -1 to hit, which can be probably on the same level. I didn't crunch the numbers on this, admittedly, as getting a 5 of Feel No Pain. Maybe, sorta, kinda, hopefully. What if you did that route for Chaos Knights? That's an idea as well. And the last one I had coming out of stealing Drukari ideas was the Court of the Archon, where I did say you already have a Screamer Killer, you already have a Skull Cannon, or whatever the fuck. But what if just innately, if you attack a unit, it has to take a battle shock test? What if that's the fucking case? Okay? What if you do that? No matter what, because technically the Abominant doesn't have to shoot, if I remember correctly. You kind of just get the point over there at the shooting phase and do that. So that could be an instance of it being a little bit better. Then go over to Chaos Demons, who have what I mean, and the fact that something will happen for both parties. If they fail Battle Shock, guess what? They take some mortal wounds. If you pass Battle Shock, you heal a little bit. Or, doubling down on it, in Plague Legion, people just start fucking dying with shit like Canker Blight. Like, maybe double up on the Battle Shock test, and things happen, right? I know the first impressions of Plague Legion were a bit rough, myself included, but after some time, we've all woken up and smelled the rot. Yeah, ew. Um, of Plague Legion that maybe you take some notes here. Maybe something in here can make Chaos Knights a little bit better. But for now, what could you do for list? Let's start talking about Imperial Knights in the first aspect that everybody's taking Laylo the Tyrant, right? You get a reroll, bam. So I'm just saying for list right now, maybe you take a Knight Desecrator and a Knight Rampager because some of the Imperial Knights list were taking Canis and one other big person. Now, a lot of people drop that to just go with Agent and make the Agent the Warlord and some yada yada yada. Sure, I guess. But for now, Rampagers, especially when you go to Traitor's Lands with a long leash, you can just spread reroll hits of ranged and melee with Desecrator and Rampager. Maybe that's it. Maybe they need more rerolls on that fact to get the game fucking going because you're going to be the damaging side. Imperial Knights are a little bit more reserved. They're defensive ones. What if we just pump out the damage, or you all pump out the damage for what you have right now? So maybe look into bringing a Rampager and a Desecrator and to back up the Brigands and the Carnivores you're already bringing. Right? Right. Then moving on to actually the thing that's probably winning Imperial Knights games the most, the ally selection. And I think the equivalent to some sisters and, well, emulators right now, this might be surprising because of what people are taking in Chaos Demons themselves that are fixing all of the detachments. Soul Grinders. I know. But for 180 points, you get better than your War Dogs profile wise, and you get distant shooting. But for the Soul Grinder, what demonic allegiance should you take so you can take it? At first, I thought, oh, you slap down Warp Gauge Zinch and you call it a day. But you don't necessarily need more tank busting. If anything, you need shit to get out of your way, and indirect fire blast lethal hits is pretty good, and will keep this package cheaper than normal. Yeah, if you go with Nurgle, with Phlegm Bombardment, D6 plus 1, hidden on 3s, Strength 7, AP1, damage 2, blast, indirect fire, lethal hits. And to take the Soul Grinder, you take the Nurglings you're already taking because they deep strike and they infiltrate. You can take 2 squads of Nurglings and 2 Soul Grinders that are Nurgle to fit in this list. You can, in the way that I had the points, I believe it was 2 Nurglings, 2 Soul Grinders, 3 Carnivores, 2 Brigands, a Desecrator, and a Rampager. 2,000 points. Not on the dot. I'm pretty sure. I think I ended at 1980. So until something changes, you might want to look into the sisters approach of taking the thing that everybody knows is good out of your allies. So yeah, Chaos Knights, I wish better for you. I hope that this doesn't ruffle too many feathers. But yeah, I think it's worth looking into the Imperial Knights approach of taking somebody else's good shit. So yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.